ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for clicking on another Rank the Movies. We are still working through this new franchise month, focusing mainly on horror franchises for Halloween. This week, we take a look at one of my... it's a great franchise. I love it. We just got done talking Halloween and Night of the Living Dead, so now let's talk Ridley Scott's classic, Alien. The series. All of it. We're going to talk about all of it. So let's get started, shall we? And of course, like every other franchise that's horror-based, we're going to look at it. Are these movies good, average, or bad? And we're going to see where the Alien franchise falls in that category. So of course we have to start with Ridley Scott's film, Alien. The movie stars Sigourney Weaver, John Hurt, and a plethora of other actors who are just really good. Basically, we're on the Nostromo. It is basically an intergalactic tow truck that is hauling a bunch of material back to Earth. They're in hypersleep, so they can make the journey feel like it doesn't take forever and a day, 'cause space travel takes forever and a day. In this hypersleep, they are awoken when when the ship's system, computer system called Mother picks up a beacon. They investigate the distress beacon to find a derelict spaceship with a ton of eggs down in its holds. One of the crew members gets a little too close to one of the eggs and gets a facehugger in response. The facehugger being basically the baby of this, the genitals of this being. It's how it procreates. He is brought on the ship. Eventually the facehugger falls off, and an alien bursts from his chest in one of the greatest scenes in all of cinema. That the actors weren't prepared for how much gore was going to come out of his chest. They just weren't prepared for that. It's a great segment. And then the alien begins systematically killing them off one by one, much like Michael Myers or Freddy Krueger or Jason Voorhees, until Sigourney Weaver and her cat are the only ones left, and the alien is defeated and they go into hypersleep. Overall, it is a fantastic movie. It is very well done. It's very claustrophobic and terrifying, which is great. And it just has a lot of very nice nuances to it. On the scale of good, average, bad, it's good. The Alien movie is a good movie. Definitely worth checking out. Definitely worth watching. This was followed up by the James Cameron film, Aliens. Aliens picks up where the first one left off. Ripley is still in hypersleep. Her pod drifted off of the normal road. It was picked up by scavengers. Once they realize there's someone alive in it, they turn her over to Weyland-Yutani, the corporation that owns the shuttle and employed Ripley and the crew of the Nostromo. She finds out that she has been asleep far longer than she expected to be. It's 50 to 75 years longer than she was supposed to be. And there's an investigation to look into why the Nostromo blew up, and it is deemed that there was nothing alien on board, and she is to blame, basically. Not held accountable, but to blame. Eventually, you find out that the planet that the derelict ship was on has now been colonized by Weyland-Yutani, and some of their colonists go out to check the derelict ship, and get a facehugger for their problems. Eventually, the colony has lost contact with Earth, and a group of space marines are sent to see what's up with the colonists. And Ripley goes along for the ride as an advisor. They get to the colony. It has been basically destroyed. She knows it's from the aliens. No one else will believe her right away. They find a girl named Newt, and she kind of bonds to Ripley because they're both survivors of the alien menace. Then the soldiers encounter the aliens. Most of them get killed off, and then we get the systematic, and it becomes more survival. Because there isn't the systematic killing one by one of horror, like the slasher film genre, then becomes more of the survival, where although we're going to whittle down our cast a lot, it's not going to be periodically throughout the movie. It's going to be now in one lump sum in a battle scene, because that's what survival is. You start setting up traps, you start setting up ways to keep the creatures out, and eventually the creature gets in, and then a bunch of people die. That's kind of how this one is set up. Ripley then goes back after Newt because she is lost. Newt and she finds Newt, and she finds the alien queen who lays the eggs. There's a giant battle both on the planet, which is about to explode because of damage to the planet and its various systems to make it habitable, and on the Sulaco, which is the ship that brought them to this planet. In the end, Ripley defeats the Queen and puts herself, Newt, what is left of the android Bishop, played by Lance Hendrickson. Great job with that role. And Corporal Hicks, played by Michael Biehn, into hyperspace and hypersleep for the return journey home. Aliens. It's a good movie. It's better than the original. This is one of the ones I definitely agree with, that the sequel far exceeds the original. I feel the same way about the Gremlins movies. Obviously, Gremlins is my favorite. Gremlins 2 is my favorite movie of all time, and Gremlins is like my 30th favorite movie of all time. So I think this is another one of those examples where the second one well exceeds the original. This would bring us to Alien 3. Ripley and her gang of misfit toys, there's a fire on the Sulaco, and it ejects the hypersleep pods and an escape pod. It lands on a prison planet. Obviously, that means it has no technology. That's also metalworks. Ripley finds out that Hicks and Newt are dead. They died on impact. And Bishop is even more mangled than he already was at the end of the previous movie. There's a new alien that is born depending... Most of these movies have two different cuts, a director's cut and the original theatrical cut. This is the one that has the weirdest change, because in the theatrical version, the alien spawns from a dog. The facehugger gets onto a dog and it comes out a dog, while in the director's cut, it's an ox. So it's a weird difference, because these aliens take on the form of what it's bred from. So the alien in this film is actually much bigger, because the ox was the original intended host. So the thing is based off of an ox mixed with an alien. So it's just this weird little thing to find out about. Basically, yes, it's a procedural. This one has a few more scares and deaths peppered throughout it, with a couple big action scenes that render a lot of people dead. And then we get to the end of the movie, where you learn that Ripley has a queen alien growing inside of her, and she sacrifices herself so Weyland-Yutani cannot get their hands on the queen. This movie is not as good as the first two. It's... Honestly, there are some people who say they prefer the director's cut or they prefer the theatrical cut. I am bored to tears by both of these movies. I like the beats, I like the ideas that this movie has. I just hate its execution. It is executed so poorly, which is why it falls under bad on my scale of good, average, bad. Generally, the third movie would hit average, but this is just, it's bad. It is not a good movie. That brings us to the fourth installment of the Alien franchise, which is Alien Resurrection. Ripley has been cloned! So the government, I can't remember what the government's name is, can get their hands on the queen inside of her. We are now hundreds of years from the end of Alien 3 in the timeline. Weyland-Yutani is dead. The government got a hold of all their files and now is trying to clone Ripley to get the queen out. They successfully clone Ripley, get the queen out, and a group of smugglers show up with a bunch of people in hyper and status and stasis to be used as test subjects on the queen's eggs. This, of course, leads to an alien infestation on the ship they are on, which I can't remember the name of this ship. And eventually you just have these smugglers and Ripley fighting through the aliens. Eventually you find out that because of the cloning technology, the alien queen was given both her normal egg-laying abilities and a womb. So she gives birth to a baby, quote-unquote, thing that doesn't accept the alien queen as its mother and kills her, but accepts Ripley as its mother, and the alien queen is frightening. Not frighteningly good, like, oh, that's such a good effect, it's so, like, frighteningly bad, like, God, why? Why? Got to see it, actually, in the corner. I don't know how good this is coming off, because it's a projection on a wall. But that's it. That's the new head of the newborn. It's a bad effect. This movie has Ron Perlman and Winona Ryder, so it's got a good cast. It's got some good quality actors in it. But again, it's not that great. This one also has a two different versions. It has the theatrical release, and then it has, I believe it's called the producer's cut, because the director wanted nothing to do with this. Either that or 3 has a producer's cut, not a director's cut. Because I believe it's 3. 3 has a producer's cut, because David Fincher wanted nothing to do with the movie because of how bad the production went. This one actually does have a director's cut. Barely anything's different, other than how long the movie runs. Alright, Alien Resurrection, it's bad. This series really went good, bad. Like, they didn't hit average. They went good, really good, and then fell straight to bad. They took the express train to bad. But we're not quite done yet, as we then have Alien vs. Predator. I'm not going to talk about the Predator films themselves, as they are, they're only connected into this universe because of Alien vs. Predator. Basically, this one takes place long before the events of Alien, if you believe it's still in the same timeline, which is debatable. I actually debated if I was going to include them in this review or not. Basically, you find out that the Predators, who are a race of hunters who go to planets to hunt things, built a pyramid, gave an alien queen to Earth, and once every generation, which is 100 years, they shock the alien queen to life, make her lay eggs, and lure some sacrifices, either willingly or unwillingly, into the temple so they can hunt the aliens. This time the sacrifices are a group of scientists and Mr. Wayland, still played by Lance Hendrickson as an old man, so now we have the original Wayland, which is just a weird point in the timeline of this movie. But anyways, go in because there's a heat bloom and they want to look at this pyramid and see how it was built and why it was built and how old is this thing, only to steal the Predator's weapons and activate the hunt of the aliens. So there's a massacre. One alien is able to kill 2 of the 3 Predators in this movie because, yes, I guess one alien is better than 2 Predators is what I'm hearing by watching this movie. And all the humans get wiped out. There's one person left standing. She teams up with the Predator to kill the alien queen, and then the Predators show up. They give a trophy to the woman because that's what Predators do with humans who can hunt, and they fly off. In the end credit scene, you see that the last Predator got face hugged and has a hybrid alien and Predator inside of them, which we'll get to in a minute. Okay, Alien vs. Predator on this scale. As much as I kind of sounded like I was going to say it was bad again, it's average. I enjoy the movie. It is actually watchable. Whereas Alien Resurrection and Alien 3, when I go, I'm going to rewatch the Alien series, I kind of drag myself through those two. I still watch them, but I drag myself through it. But I enjoy Alien vs. Predator. I genuinely like that movie. And I have gone, I'm going to watch Alien vs. Predator just by itself without watching the full franchise. Alien vs. Predator got a sequel called Alien vs. Predator Requiem. I could not find a good poster, so that's why it says 2. Again, if the camera's resolution is even good enough to pick that up, because again, projector, the way I light, I get it if it's not that great. But anyways, you have Alien vs. Predator Requiem. This one picks up right where Alien vs. Predator leaves off. The Predalien pops out of the alien, wreaks havoc on the Predator ship. It crashes into Earth, releasing the Predalien and a bunch of facehuggers, because why not? The facehuggers find a father and son who are hunting, and it facehugs them, both of them, because kids are totally able to die in this movie. As a message gets sent to the Predator homeworld, and another Predator, a trained hunter, is sent to Earth to clean up this mess that's now happened, and he has liquid that immediately disintegrates whatever it touches to clean up the mess. He goes there, and the Predalien, you find out, can lay eggs through its mandible, but it has to be in an empty space, a big enough space in a body. So pregnant women, jumps like 6 of them into them. People are dying. We have heroes. Eventually, the Predator and the Predalien fight. There's a nuclear explosion, and the end. My big problem with this movie isn't the plot, the bland characters who aren't even worth mentioning, because I honestly can't think of anything any of the bland, one-dimensional characters do in this movie. It's shot dark. Like, really, really dark. Like, you're questioning what you're looking at dark. So it takes any enjoyment out of this movie that it might have had. Because you're thinking more, what am I looking at? And less, ooh, look at the cool alien thing. So Alien vs. Predator, Requiem, it's bad. It's bad. So, I mean, balancing act here, things aren't looking good for Aliens. This is not looking like a good franchise. But we still have 2 movies left, and that could really tip this thing, depending on where they fall. So, after Alien vs. Predator, Requiem bombed because it's a giant piece of crap, Ridley Scott walked back in and said, let me do another Alien movie. So he made a prequel called Prometheus. This one openly ignores the Alien vs. Predator movies, and because it's a prequel, it can ignore anything else it wants. Basically, it's about the people who created the alien, because the aliens are a creation, not a natural occurring creature, which is fine. I think that's actually, for what the alien is and how they act, I think that makes sense. Anyways, a group of scientists figure out where these engineers are, and they take a ship out called the Prometheus, and they take a ship out to investigate and see if they can't meet who they believe also created them. They find the planet, it is derelict, it is decimated, and they find a temple with breathable air, and as they're walking around, they eventually find a giant room full of vases, but opening the door kind of activates the vases and their sliminess. One of the vases is stolen. 2 of the people on the team get left behind in the temple as the rest return to the ship. The 2 have to spend the night there and eventually find their way into the liquidy vase room, where flatworms have now mutated because of the liquid. And the flatworm swiftly kills one of them because he's an idiot. He's an idiot. He's a scientist, but he's a dumb scientist. And mutates the other one by getting them to shove their face into the mutation liquid, while the android David is also experimenting with this liquid by infecting one of the scientists who originally went there to speak to their creators. You also meet Peter Weyland, who is the founder of the Weyland Corporation, who's also there because he's old, he's decrepit, he's going to die, but he put himself in hypersleep so he can ask his makers how to be young again. He wants youth and eternal life. They eventually find one of the engineers is still alive in a hyperspace chamber on their ship. So Weyland is woken up. They go there after they murder the people who are infected. They go there. You find out the engineer is not happy as this ship was going to Earth with these black vases, basically as a test subject. Humanity was going to be a test subject for what these vases could do. The engineer destroys David, kills Weyland, and goes on a rampage. Tries to take off in his ship to head to Earth, but the captain of the Prometheus, played by Idris Elba, whose name I butchered, but he's a great actor, ends up shooting his ship through the alien ship. So the Prometheus goes through the alien ship, destroying both, leaving Holloway as the only survivor of this crash. She eventually tricks the alien into opening a door because she was impregnated. She fooled around with her boyfriend, who happened to be the one infected by David, and she ended up with an alien baby that kind of is a weird squid facehugger. It's actually really cool. And the engineer ends up getting attacked by that thing, and Holloway ends up stealing David and taking off in the other ship back to the engineer homeworld so she can confront her makers and find out why all of this has happened. So where does Prometheus fall on my scale? I love Prometheus. Prometheus is such a good movie. I don't feel like I did it justice in describing it, but it is such a well-done movie. The effects are good, the acting is good, everything about this movie is top-notch. Well, we've made it all the way to the last one, also directed by Ridley Scott, is Alien Covenant. This is the sequel to Prometheus. We meet the crew of the Covenant, led by Captain James Franco, who dies instantly. Spoiler alert, which this whole thing has been spoiler alert, James Franco dies instantly. In an accident that happens with a solar flare. The crew wakes up not wanting to go back into hypersleep because he died in a hypersleep malfunction where the oxygen in his hypersleep chamber caught on fire. They find a distress signal from Holloway, and they follow it back to a planet that is possibly inhabitable, so they go to investigate it because it is closer than the planet they are going to. They arrive there. It is the engineer world. The engineers are all dead. They meet David, and they have another android that looks exactly like David, except not insane. So that's good. They have their own. Anyways, so so they end up following David back to his home, where he says Holloway died in the crash of when they got to the planet. You learn that is actually very wrong. David intentionally released the bioweapons onto the engineers when they arrived, killing all of them, and then eventually used Holloway as a test subject for his own creations. What you find out is the eggs. He's created the alien, the facehugger, and the alien proper, though you are never actually shown the queen. I believe if there's a third movie, we'll get the creation of the alien queen and the full life cycle. One of the crew members is with a facehugger. An alien pops out. The crew is killed by various creatures, not just the xenomorph, the alien, but some other creatures that are created from the bioweapons left around this planet. And eventually, they kill the aliens, get back to the ship. There are 2 survivors left. They're put into hypersleep while their android, you find out it's actually David. And he now has a huge, because this is a colony mission. So you have the crew, and then you have all the colonists in hypersleep that they are taking to this planet. He now has plenty of test subjects. Alien Covenant, it's average. It's a strongly average movie. I like it. It's very average. It's not bad. It's not great, but it's good. It's a good Alien movie. So looking at this board, it's clear the Alien franchise is an average movie franchise. The good movies are kind of matched by the crap, and then the average ones, they're just there. It's almost a 4-4 split of these 8 movies, how they work. So it's an average series, but I like it. I think I am intrigued by the alien itself, and that's what gets me through this movie, which is why I have it in higher esteem, because these 3 movies are so good, and these 2 are so enjoyable, that the crap is just there. Like, you can get through it. It's not a bad series where you're going, I don't want to watch it. You're going, I want to watch these movies, and I want to get there the way you're supposed to. So let's talk about final listings here. So, I got rid of that screen just so I'm not confusing the Alien movies as I'm talking with the images I had as my background. So my least favorite Alien film is Alien vs. Predator Requiem. That movie sucks. It is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It might very well be the worst movie I own a copy of. That one might be my least favorite movie I own a copy of, which puts it in high contention with the movie House of Wax. But that's my least favorite movie I own 2 copies of. But that might be a story for a later day. Next up would be Alien 3. Like I said, either version of this movie I don't enjoy. I can sit there, I can watch it, I'll get sucked in for about 10 minutes, and then I'll get pulled out again, and I might never get sucked back in. Next up we have Alien Resurrection. I enjoy this one a little more. It's right on that line of bad versus average, but it leans more bad, hence its position. The halfway point is Alien vs. Predator. I enjoy this one, but I see its flaws and I understand why it is not such a well-liked movie in this franchise. Coming in at number 4, Alien Covenant. I like it. It's an enjoyable movie. I enjoy what it does. I think it builds very nicely off of Prometheus. And I think that's what Alien and Aliens did very well, is they built very nicely off of each other. And one of the biggest problems with Requiem is it doesn't. It tried to do that, but it doesn't. It doesn't build of Alien vs. Predator. Number 3 is Alien, the original. As much as this is a classic and it's got some great scenes and some great actors, it is very slowly paced for the vast majority of this movie. And that's a personal preference. Some people like really very slow-paced movies that pick up as it goes along. For some people, that is the suspense of the movie, is its building narrative. For me, I just want to get to the monster coming out of his chest and then swiftly move forward, while Alien wants to take its time to get there and then have it happen and take a little more time before we get to the characters dying off, and then even more time before we get to the conclusion, which isn't bad by any means. It's just for a ranking system, and this being my preference because it's my channel, that's how I feel about it. Number 2 is Prometheus. Prometheus, I love this movie. It is so good. I enjoyed it when I saw it in theaters. I saw it in 3D, and I love the 3D. This is the first movie I went, I like 3D. But I do. It's an enjoyable movie. Number 1 is, of course, Aliens. Because it is so good. James Cameron did such a good job with this movie. It tells a great story. It has great characters. It flows very nicely from the original. Like I said, it's an average series when you actually take each movie individually. But overall, it's a series worth checking out. If you've never checked out the Alien franchise, give it a shot. You might enjoy it. Alright, well, that is this week's rankings. Next week, we are talking Child's Play, the little killer Chucky doll. That's going to be a good time. So I'll see you then. And remember, subscribe if you want to see more. Hit like if you like this video. Leave a comment if you have anything you want to say. And don't forget to check out the bonus content video this week, where I talk about another movie that is not horror related. It's going to be a good one. Alright, see you next week.